All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today's topic is technology and health. But before we get started, just a couple of those normal announcements to take care of. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation, and you can type those in by clicking that Q&A section in the lower part of your control panel. We will be posting a recording of the webinar on our blog. The link for that will be shown at the end. And if you'd like a PDF copy of the presentation, there will be a link to download that on the same post as the recording. And if your question does not happen to get answered today, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. All right, so for today, we're going to talk about a few things when it comes to technology and health. First, we'll talk about all the great benefits of technology and what it's given us, and when it comes to staying healthy and keeping accountable with our goals specifically on that health-related side. Then we'll chat about things that we do need to be mindful of when it comes to things like overuse and not taking time to unplug, those types of things. And that will lead us into finding balance between using the benefits of technology but not taking it too far. So that's the agenda for today. So let's start with all the great things technology has given us, specifically with keeping up with our health. On the physical side, just the equipment advances alone have transformed the healthcare field, right? So many new machines to help diagnose illness and so many more to help fight those illnesses. It's really incredible where we have come the last few decades alone. Then when it comes to being able to get access to healthcare, the telehealth field has been around for a while now, but it has exploded recently, obviously with everything going on, with the need to limit time physically in a clinic or hospital setting if we can help it. And telehealth not only applies to physical health, it applies to mental health as well. Access to therapists and experts from the comfort of our own home to deal with things like depression and anxiety. It really has saved lives, right? The next benefit of technology is just the availability of knowledge about health and healthy habits. I know this can seem like a double-edged sword sometimes, and it is sometimes, let's be honest, but overall, the ability to look up things like healthy recipes, exercises and workouts, meditation, pretty much anything that you want is a huge advantage to our health and gives us the ability to supplement what our healthcare providers say and really take things into our own hands when it comes to improving our overall well-being. And then, of course, along with that, the availability of online classes for exercise, nutrition, you name it. You can take live classes from anywhere on any type of exercise or watch videos online that we just didn't have before, right? It has opened up a world of possibilities that used to only be available to specific people or in larger cities, places like that. Now anyone with internet access has availability with it. And then just connection with others. Again, taking this year as an example, how lucky are we to be able to communicate through our phone and computers and our everything with our friends, our loved ones, coworkers, teachers, doctors, anybody. Now, social media really is a benefit overall too. I know there are things we need to be mindful of, especially with social media, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but overall, it can be a great tool to help keep in touch. It can be a place to meet new people as well. And not only that, but technology helps us be able to help others via social media or other online sites. Simply click a button and you can donate money to someone in need, right? We weren't able to do that not very long ago. How many causes that many people didn't know even existed or didn't know about are now able to raise money and bring their fight into the forefront because of technology and social media? And then, of course, the support you can get with your health. I mentioned online classes, but you can also join online groups that can help support you with your goals or help support you in times of need. Things like a 5K group of those who want to run a 5K, a healthy eating group to have some accountability and share recipes, a support group for widows or someone who has lost a loved one. There are people out there going through similar things, and technology has made it so we can all support each other and you can find that connection, right? Lots of good stuff. And then we have things like wearable and smart devices and apps, things like that. Being able to track your habits and actions is one of the best ways to make a change. So having a device or an app that can help you with that is going to help set you up for success. There's so many things we can monitor depending on what you have. There's lots of different products out there, right? But take the My Health Check 360 app, for example. You can keep track of your food, your water, your activity, your steps along those types of things, weight, sleep, heart health measurements like your blood pressure, your heart rate, cholesterol levels, you can enter those in, blood sugar, nicotine habits, and then your daily journal. You can even journal on the app for the mental health. If you're not sure where to find these things, contact our team. I'll have that info at the end. We can send you some how-tos. But again, even an app like ours can do so many things. And then you've got other devices that you can use in conjunction with this that can automatically measure those things as well. Even things like taking your blood sugars for you and taking an ECG, electrocardiogram, are possible now with just something on your wrist. It's incredible. Then you have things like smart water bottles that keep track of how much you drink and then prompt you with reminders, scales that connect to your phone. There's so many examples of this that are popping up daily. And then again, on that mental health side, there are apps that you can use to help keep your brain and your memory sharp with different daily activities, those types of things as well. It's incredible, all the options out there that we have. And then we know that if you are given this data, it can make it easier to be mindful of your health, right? If you see that you're taking in twice the amount of recommended sugar each day by putting it into your app, it can make you think the next time you're choosing what you want for a snack, right? And then with that mindfulness can come motivation. If you're in a challenge at work to get an average of 30 minutes per day of exercise, that's something that can help you get motivated to do that, right? You see other people doing it and we want to do it too. If you have 1,000 steps per day, you might say, okay, let's go for 1,500 the next day. It makes things measurable. It makes things easier to set those SMART goals around. Knowledge is power when it comes to knowing where our health is now so we can set goals for the future. If you don't know what you're doing now or what you're taking in or how active you are, it's going to be really hard to set those good, measurable, SMART goals. And that's what these devices and apps are designed to do. Now, yes, you still have to make the decision to take action, but they are absolutely going to help you along the way if you have a positive attitude and if you let them help you. Lots of good stuff. All right, so we talked a little bit about the good things and the great advances of technology and how they can help us be healthy. Let's talk about the things that we do need to be mindful of. I touched on them a little bit already, but let's dive a little bit deeper. I want to start with that physical side. Technology has made our lives so much easier in so many ways, right? You can order anything you want and it's shipped to your door in a couple of days or a couple of hours in some cases. You can turn off the TV and change the channel with a remote instead of physically getting up to do it. You can clap and your lights go off. Okay, I know the clapper isn't too popular anymore. Some of you might not even have any idea what I'm talking about, but you get my point, hopefully. Technology has made it so we're less physically active overall. We're not moving as much. So many people work in jobs now too that have been streamlined by technology. And now, again, giving this year as an example, even more of us are working from home. So you don't even have to take the steps from your car to the office. I'm 2 feet away from my bed right now. So I could probably take less than 100 steps per day if I wanted to, right? So this is just something we need to be mindful and we need to be aware of, which the good news is that's why those things I just talked about, like those apps and devices that make us mindful, that's why those are made. We can overcome a sedentary job, a sedentary life. It is going to take work on our part, but we can use the technology and we can overcome those barriers as well. Other physical things to think about that technology can have an effect on are things like our eyesight. So looking at tablets, phones, computers, other screens without taking a break can lead to things like blurred vision or dry eyes, and it can lead to some headaches as well eventually too. Time looking at your screen, the glare on the screen, the brightness of the screen, being too close or too far away are some of those other factors to be mindful of when you're on your screens or on your devices. So taking regular breaks is the key to combat this, which I'm going to add on here too in a few minutes. But following what is called the 20-20-20 rule is really helpful. So basically what that means is every 20 minutes, you should take a break for at least 20 seconds and look at something that's at least 20 feet away. This can help reduce that strain on your eyes. It just gives them a break, gives your mind a break too, honestly, but on the physical side, it's going to give those eyes a little bit of a break. So 20 minutes for 20 seconds, look at something at least 20 feet away. Preferably something wonderful like looking out your window outside at the pretty sky, something like that, right? Problems with our muscles and joints and things like posture are another thing to be mindful of when it comes to technology use. Think about how you sit when you're looking at your phone, for example. Your head is down and forward, putting that strain on the back of your neck, right? Our posture when we sit while watching TV or at our desks isn't always the greatest either. Neck pain as well as shoulder and low back pain are more common with those that are sedentary and using technology more often. It's just how it is. Also, things like strain on your fingers and wrists can happen, similar mostly with cell phones or typing, things like that. Again, we'll talk about taking breaks and ways to combat this here in a minute. But sleep is the last physical concern I want to touch on today. There are a few factors at play when we talk about how technology can negatively affect our sleep. First is simply not going to bed on time because you're consumed with social media or that game of Candy Crush, right? How many nights do you jump down that rabbit hole and not come out for an hour? Too many, probably, for some of us, right? Then we have the blue light factor. If you're not familiar with this, blue light is what is emitted from things like cell phones, tablets, TVs, and research has found that this type of light can affect our body's ability to produce correct levels of melatonin, which is a hormone that helps our body sleep and get ready for sleep. Now, if we get our hormone levels messed up, that can affect our internal sleep clock and sleep-wake cycle, causing all sorts of issues with our quantity and quality of sleep. And as we know, sleep sets a tone for the day, so it can cause other issues if we're not getting that sleep, right? Mental, physical issues if we're not getting that sleep that we need. So again, something to be mindful of. The last way technology can affect our sleep comes from the mental health side. When you're reading bad news or inflammatory social media posts, how does that make you feel? Not good, right? Our stress response is activated when we see negative things or negative stories or posts that upset us in some way. So that stress response increases things like our adrenaline and other hormones that are meant to keep us awake and alert. That's not what we want when we're trying to go to sleep, right? Exact opposite. So again, it's taking that away before bed, but we'll talk about some other things to think about too. But bottom line, there are definitely some concerns we need to think about when it comes to our physical health and technology use, but we can address those and still be able to have it in our lives, of course. So on that note, one more thing with the mental health I want to touch on. Sorry, I thought I was going into the balance, but not quite yet. I just want to touch a little bit more on the mental health concerns. I started to touch on it a little bit with stress and how that can cause some issues, but I want to dive just a little bit deeper. While we can feel more connected to the world through social media and technology, it can actually have the opposite effect as well. We can feel more isolated. Now, why is that? If we're connected, how do we feel isolated? A few things to think about. First is simply what's called the FOMO effect. If you haven't heard of this, it stands for fear of missing out. People are actually becoming addicted to checking social media to see what their friends or family are doing, and they're afraid, they get anxiety that if they don't check on things, they're going to miss out on something, right? They're going to miss out on something fun. Or on the flip side, if you don't get invited to something, but then you see something posted about it later, we can get angry or stressed and feel left out, which is where that isolation feeling can start to sneak in. And that brings me to my next point, the comparison factor. Think about when you see someone post a picture of some fun activity or them doing something with friends. Do you sometimes feel jealous, maybe even a little sad, like, hey, I want to be out doing something fun. How come they get to and I can't? It's kind of human nature. We get that jealousy feeling. Or someone posts a picture of their new car, their new house, their pet, a new outfit, And again, that same type of feelings of jealousy, sadness, or even just loneliness can come in. A quote from Theodore Roosevelt: "Comparison is the thief of joy." So true, right? When we are busy comparing our lives to other people, we tend to lose track of all the great things we have ourselves. Being more connected to all the good things other people have can make it hard to appreciate what we have in our own lives. Now, again, being grateful, working on those things is something that we should all be doing. So this is just another reason to keep that in mind, because it can help combat this comparison factor that is out there. And then that mental health, those concerns can lead to more serious things like depression and anxiety. There's a little bit of mixed findings with this depending on what you read for research, but most say that lowering social media use in general leads to better mental health outcomes. I'm on that side. I feel like balance is key. When you consider the comparison factor, that fear of missing out, and just the amount of negativity that there can be out there on technology, it makes sense that it can cause some concerns. So if you are getting negative feelings from social media or any type of technology, then again, that's something that you need to be mindful of moving forward. And of course, be sure to reach out for help if you feel like it's getting more than you're able to handle. And then the next concern to think about is simply burnout. Specifically, I want to touch on work, just because a lot of you are in businesses that are working with health check. If you have your work email on your phone, and on top of that, if you have a watch or something that notifies you of those emails or texts coming in, it can be really, really hard to disconnect from work, right? With some of you now working from home, this can make the problem worse as well, because you can't physically leave work the same way as you did before. And it can be tempting just to keep on working, right? 40, 50, 60 hours, some of you I know are probably putting in. This leads to burnout, right? Which can lead to things like depression and anxiety too. So being mindful of disconnecting, and again, I'm going to say it again, finding that balance that we're going to talk about here in a minute, and not always being available is something to think about for your own mental health's sake. And last but certainly not least, technology can take a toll on relationships. Relationships with spouses or significant others, but also with friends and other family members can take a hit. We can lose those connections with people in real life because we're spending so much time in our technological world, right? And on top of that, just the ability to communicate and read those things like nonverbal cues is being lost. That ability is being lost without physically being with the person we're talking to. Now, Zoom and those types of things work, but we're still losing a lot of those connections. We can have arguments on social media with people we care about because it's so much easier to not think about how our words are coming out, how they may be perceived by other people before we just type and press send, right? When we don't see that person and have that connection, it can be easy just to throw things out there that we don't understand how hurtful they can be. So being mindful of cultivating relationships outside of just email or social media is something that needs to be on everyone's radar. A lot of times starting with those that are under the same roof, especially now, if you're not able to get out and talk with other people, use your own people as much as you can if you have that availability. Okay, now let's get back to the positive and how we can find balance and use technology for all the good in our lives, shall we? So first, and you hear this every month if you listen to any of our webinars, but one thing that you can do to start to be mindful of your technology usage, is to track it. If you start to pay attention to the actual amount of time you are unnecessarily using technology, you might find some really easy ways to cut back. I know there are some phones that actually track your time in certain apps, and you can actually look into your app store and see if you can find one on there. There's lots of good resources out there. And then once you kind of start to get a feel for that, like I said, you might find some really easy ways to cut back, but you might want to just set some small steps to improve. Again, small is key. If you want to cut down, that's great, but don't go crazy. If you want to go cold turkey, chances are going to be a little bit lower, especially if you need. I mean, most of us do have uses that we need technology, so don't think that you're going to cut it all out, but take small steps to try to cut down to find that balance. So onto that, a good strategy is to create an actual policy around your usage. Put this in writing if you want to, but this can include things like tech-free times. For example, say from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. is a no tech time. That includes your supper, that includes some time with family or times, just for yourself, or from 6 to 7 a.m. when you wake up. Just, get your day started on a positive note. Don't jump on social media or technology right away. Or from 9 to 10 p.m. can be a no tech time, so you can get that body away from that blue light that affects your sleep, like we talked about. Double bonus there. You can do this the other way around too and create specific tech times as well. So when you will be able to be on technology. So let's say you get to check social media from 7 to 7:30 or 7 to 8 p.m., for example. If possible, I know it's not possible for everyone, but if you can make it, only check your work email at certain times of the day. Either setting times away from or giving parameters to the time that you can spend on technology helps get us that balance. And then you can go a step further and create no tech zones. So for example, that dinner time, like I said, the dinner table is a great example to ban technology. No phones at the dinner table, right? Or the backyard where you should be up and playing. Of course, I'll make an exception to allow music to play or something like that because you want to dance, all that good stuff. But again, you hopefully know where I'm coming from with this. Set the expectation of when and where you can use technology and where you can't use technology. And it becomes a really easy way to disconnect. You just have that expectation and when I'm here, I'm not going to use it. At this time I can, and then you can have that balance. Another thing to think about is replying to emails and other messages. If you're always replying right away to things, this becomes the expectation that others have of you, right? And it can become a major stressor in your life. So if you're able to, creating new expectations when it comes to the timeline of when you answer messages, especially those of lower importance. I get there's going to be exceptions to all of this, but the lower important ones, messages, setting the expectation of, hey, I might not reply today about this, can give you some freedom to not feel like you have to be so connected and always checking to see if there's something you need to respond to, right? Checking your email all the time. And especially if you've got that time frame set up. And on the other hand with this, or to add to this, turn off unnecessary notifications as well. If you have time frames set up to read your emails or to check social media, then you don't need your phone vibrating or dinging whenever someone sends you something or tags you in a post, right? Those are the things, those notifications are the things that drag us back to our phones or computers when we should be or could be focusing on other things. Now, notice I said unnecessary, not all. I know some things are helpful to have notifications for and reminders, things like reminders to get up and go for a walk, for example, or to drink that water if you've got that smart water bottle. That's good stuff. Just go through and decide which ones are and which ones aren't necessary, so that can give you a little bit more freedom. Again, you're not going to be drawn back to it by hearing that ding and want to go back to that technology. And then I want to talk about some of the physical things that you can do. I already mentioned it once, but following that 20-20-20 rule is very important to help your eyes and your mind stay clear. So it's not just a physical help with that. Every 20 minutes, look away from that screen, stand up, stretch that whole body. Don't forget about those hands and your fingers too. Do some stretches there, walk in place, do some sort of movement for at least 20 seconds. Ideally more, but again, I get it, but 20 seconds at least. And again, look at something at least 20 feet away. You can do that right now if you want to, because you can still hear me, hopefully. And then maintaining posture is extremely important as well. I'm going to include some articles on the blog post for this recording about what constitutes good posture in different settings, like driving, at work, at home. But a couple things to keep in mind. If you're at a desk, for example, keep your knees at the same level or slightly higher than your hips. Keep your feet flat on the floor. Keep your shoulders back and relaxed and down. This is how you can create an ergonomic workspace too, making sure all the things that you have at your desk are within your reach so you don't have to reach or twist or turn too much. And if you do, turn your whole body, not just your upper body. Those are just a couple little tidbits, but again, I'll put some expert advice on the blog post. And then again, the topic of blue light specifically, I already mentioned, but if you can't disconnect and if you need to be or feel you need to be on your device close to bedtime, there are blue light blocking glasses that you can get. A quick internet search will find you some of those, or you can talk with your eye doctor. Also, there's settings on phones and computers now that can lower that blue light that's emitted, so it kind of darkens your screen a little bit, which can help as well. Again, small steps. You don't have to be perfect, but little things can make a big difference in that overall health for you. All right, let's wrap it up with some final thoughts before I take some questions. First of all, technology is here to stay, right? I know it's easy to look back and say, oh, our lives were so much more simple when we were growing up. I didn't have distractions. I didn't have social media, which isn't going to be true much longer for a lot of us. A lot of us have grown up with it. And it is partly true. It was simpler, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was better either. Technology has given us a lot of good things. And again, it's not going away. So we might as well embrace it, embrace those good parts, take advantage of it to help our own health. Use those apps and devices that help motivate you. Join that social media group that will help support you in your goals. And you help support other people too. You be part of that good stuff. And then don't forget to have some perspective, especially when you're on social media. Remember, people are typically going to put the highlights of their life, not usually the bad things, right? So comparing ourselves to others or wishing we had what they have, while tempting and hard to not do, is not the right perspective for us. Instead of thinking the grass is greener on the other side, we should be happy for those with the green grass and then focus on watering our own, right? Be happy with what we've got. There's enough good stuff to go around. We can share. And on that same note, I think it's important to make sure that we're using technology and social media for the right reasons. We should be using it to stay connected. We should be using it to help others. We should be using it to help gain knowledge and improving our own health. We shouldn't be using it to bring down others or adding negativity to an already pretty stressful world right now, right? Our own mental health benefits when we focus on the positive, and when we put positive out there, we can help others do that too. So for today, I want you to set a goal to find balance in your life with a policy around technology. Find times to disconnect, use technology for positive purposes, and make a realistic goal to find that balance for you. We can all do it. Small steps. We got it. All right, that's it for me for that. A couple upcoming webinars next month. Healthy hacks. We're going to give you some specific tips that our coaches use for all sorts of ways to stay healthy. And then in October, we're going to talk about epigenetics, which, you know, is genes. Are they going to do everything? Do they control everything? Or can we change some lifestyle things to help as well? Hint, you can. All right, if you have questions for lifestyle rewards, here's what they will be. These will be on your portal if you do log in, so you don't have to write these down. They're pretty easy, I hope, as long as you paid attention. Most of you will not have these questions. You can just submit that you watched the webinar, but just in case, these are the questions to be on the lookout for. And then here's our contact information. As always, we are on social media, right? So find your balance, check us a little bit. You don't have to check it all the time. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and then the blog is where you're gonna find the recording of this and any past webinars. And if you wanna chat with a health coach, you're welcome to anytime. 1-800 number there, and then healthcoach@healthcheck360.com. You can shoot us an email and we would be happy to help. All right.